Welcome to our third video cast of this unit. Today we're going to be looking at theories other than psychoanalytic psychodynamic theories. We'll talk about the humanistic theory and the social cognitive theory. So let's get started. All right, so Freud's psychoanalytic theory is very negative in nature, right? It focuses on conflicts that you can't see or know about, and defense mechanisms and anxiety, right? Well, the humanistic theories are actually really more positive and optimistic about the human condition than that. They argue that personality is driven by needs to adapt and to learn. Humanistic theories are all about people are driven to achieve that highest level on the pyramid, right? We work through all these different goals and motivators that we have to get to that self-actualization piece. Humanistic theorists argue that people are determined to be the best version of themselves that they can be, and that is the basic human motivator. They also argue that mental disorders occur when a person is in an unhealthy situation that causes low self-esteem and unmet needs, not from unhealthy individuals. So it's not that there's something wrong with you that is so deep in the fiber of your being that you will never escape this, which seems to be more the Freudian interpretation. It's more so that in this current moment you're not getting your needs met. Abraham Maslow, we know about him, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Famous humanistic person. He created that hierarchy of needs. And he said we needed something that described good mental health as more than just the absence of illness, right? So he saw a group of people in pursuit of higher ideals and wanted a way to explain that behavior. Why would people be pushed to achieve the greatest that they possibly can? Freud's theory really doesn't have an explanation for that. Freud just has an explanation for social interaction and intimacy and issues thereof, not necessarily positive, healthy examples. So, self-actualizing personalities, these are healthy individuals who have met their basic needs and are free to be creative and fulfill their potentialities. So, Maslow argued that as soon as those basic needs were met, you were mentally healthy enough, and so you wanted to achieve more as an individual. Carl Rogers is another famous humanist, but he takes a different approach. He identifies healthy personalities as a fully functioning person. What this means is an individual who has a self-concept that is positive and congruent or equal with reality. So people that have a healthy grasp on reality, we call these people grounded, right? They're well grounded. Criticisms of humanistic theories, they criticize them as being fuzzy. What is self-actualization really? So once again, we have definitional issues. And then for a long time, self-esteem was thought to cause people to act the way that they do. More recently, though, psychologists have argued that self-esteem isn't the cause of behavior, but rather a byproduct of behavior. So some scientists are finding it to not be the X in our equation, but the Y. All right, social cognitive theories, yet another application here, where the clinical view, which would be that humanistic view and the psychodynamic views, lack scientific backing. The social cognitive theory is solidly founded in the scientific tradition, with emphasis placed on research, and the results of that research have been, built together into a theory of personality. So the most well-known of these theories is observational learning, supported by Albert Bandura, who we've talked about before. Bandura said that we're not only driven by inner forces and the environment, but also expectations about how those actions will affect other people, the environment, and ourselves. So here's a nice little diagram for you here. This is in observational learning, we learn new responses by watching other people's behavior, right? So we don't always have to experience negative side effects from what we're doing in order to learn from it, or positive side effects, right? We can watch somebody else experience the negative or positive side effects and then learn from that and know that that's our boundary as well. So personality is thus learned behavior patterns. And these cognitive processes involved an ongoing relationship between the individual and the environment, and he calls that reciprocal determinism. So basically, the environment determines the person, and then the people determine the environment. All right, there is a locus of control, a center of control in this theory, And it's our sense of controlling our environment rather than feeling helpless. So this is also stems from a more positive, optimistic place than the Freudian theory, in that our main drive is this locus of control. So there's also an external locus of control, and this is the perception that chance or outside forces beyond one's personal control determine one's fate. So not only do we know what we can control and we want to control that, but we also know that there are things beyond our control. The internal locus of control, this is the perception that one controls one's own fate. So really, a lot of the social cognitive perspective stems from whether you believe you control your own fate or you believe that there is a fate outside of you, and you're just going through the motions. Learned helplessness is the hopelessness and passive resignation that an animal or human learns when unable to avoid repeated aversive events. So if you try really hard to work on something and you put your all into it, right, like schoolwork, but you still don't get a good grade, then maybe after then you just don't try as hard because it's hopeless, right? It's hopeless, and therefore you're helpless and there's nothing you can do. Learn helplessness, this is kind of the visual. So we have an uncontrollable bad event, which causes a perceived lack of control, which then causes generalized helpless behavior. So this is how this personality trait develops, how people become victims of their own reality. All right, temperament. So temperament is defined as the inherited personality dispositions that are apparent in early childhood and that establish a tempo, so a pace at which you move, and a mood in the individual's behaviors. Biological dispositions affect your basic personalities. So temperament is one of those basic foundational personalities in this theory, and it argues that biological conditions, whether you're a sickly child or an energetic child, or a child that needs other people or a child that works best on your own, these things determine your temperament. So the pace at which you move and your mood. All right, traits. There are traits that are stable personality characteristics, and they're presumed to exist within individuals to guide thoughts and actions under various conditions. These traits are presumed by some to be genetic. Let me just see where we are here. Yeah, okay. I'm sort of getting ahead of myself here, actually. Let's talk about this. So we just spoke about the humanistic theory and the social cognitive theory, and now we're going to talk about trait theory. Trait theory argues that there are certain traits that we're all born with, and this dictates our personality. So there's the five-factor theory, and this is a perspective suggesting that the personality is composed of 5 fundamental personality dimensions: your openness to new experiences, your consciousness, your level of extroversion, your level of agreeableness, and your level of neuroticism. And these are not explained on those pages. That was from a previous textbook that I used. So I will give you those pages in class. All right, so let's define those traits a little bit more. So emotional stability. This is calm versus anxious. Sorry, that's attached there. Secure versus insecure, self-satisfied versus self-pitying. Your combination of these characteristics, so say you're calm and insecure and self-pitying, determines your emotional stability. Extroversion is determined by these things: sociable versus retiring. Retiring means, going off by yourself, going inside, going to bed. Fun-loving versus sober. So someone who gets euphoric over, being goofy and fun, versus someone who's very sobering and real and dry. Affectionate versus reserved. Openness, we have imaginative versus practical. Preference for variety versus preference for routine. And independent versus conforming. I think you're getting the picture here. So pause the video for a minute and get these in your notes. They're very important. All right, contemporary research, the trait perspective. So the trait is defined as a characteristic pattern of behavior, or a disposition to feel and act as assessed by self-reported inventories and peer reports. Notice the type of scientific inquiry going on here. Is this valid, reliable, easily recreated? Is it scientific? Personality inventory is a questionnaire, often with true, false, or agree, disagree items, on which people respond to items designed to gauge a wide range of feelings and behaviors. So these are used to assess selected personality traits. So if you were to get one of these tests, you would just select true or false, or I agree or disagree with each statement. I enjoy being surrounded by others. True, false. All right, Hans and Sybil Eysenck use two primary personality factors as axes for describing personality variation. So this is just a nice visual of all of this stuff. And I apologize that this just does not look good on my slide at all. But we move from unstable to stable, introverted to extroverted. And these are saying melancholic. We'll get into this in class. I'll show you in class. All right. Empirically derived testing. So this is a test developed by testing a pool of items and then selecting those that discriminate between groups. So remember that I was talking about whether or not those types of tests, self-reported inventories and peer reports, are scientific. Well, here's how they are. What the people who created Trait Perspective did was they took a sample of people and tested and evaluate them on a specific set of questions, and then those are the questions that are used to test everyone. And this is an example of the MMPI, which is the Minnesota Multiphasic Inventory, and it's a lengthy test that can determine many different types of personality strengths and weaknesses. And this is what the results would look like for a person on a T-score. And that is going to do it, guys. Looks like that's my last slide for this unit. So that is the trait perspective as well. We're going to be going over these different theories and perspectives in class in more detail, but make sure you read the textbook on this section and know these, because these will be on your test. And this also kind of feeds you into the next chapter, which is on intelligence testing, and personality tests are part of